Have you ever wondered why so many geniuses, visionaries, and high flyers seem to end in spectacular flames? Why the brightest stars often burn out the fastest, leaving behind a trail of chaos, scandal, or even madness? The answer isn't just about stress or bad luck. It lies in a forgotten, ancient concept, a kind of psychic nuclear energy called mana in Polynesian culture. And later in the psychology of Carl Jung, mana is described as the primordial, raw power of the unconscious. It's a numinous, impersonal force that flows through the great archetypes. It's the energy of creation, of charisma, of divine inspiration. When this energy latches onto a person's ego, they become supercharged. Suddenly, they're charismatic, unstoppable, a visionary who seems to bend reality to their will. This is the secret fuel behind many a great success. But here's the trap. This initial success, this spiritual breakthrough, or even the powerful integration of one's own shadow, it grants a genuine taste of mana. The problem starts when the ego, the I, makes a fatal mistake. It confuses being a channel for this power with being the source of it. This is what Jung called inflation. The person develops a mana personality. They no longer see themselves as a vessel. They believe they are the divine power itself. A living god complex is born. History is littered with the wreckage of these mana personalities. Look at Alexander the Great. He conquered the known world, a feat that felt superhuman because, in a way, it was fueled by this psychic energy. But then he declared himself a living god, the son of Zutzaman. He demanded his soldiers perform rituals of worship to him. He was completely inflated. And how did it end? Not in a blaze of glory on the battlefield, but in a fevered, delirious madness, dying young and leaving his empire to crumble. Or consider Friedrich Nietzsche, a mind so brilliant it felt like a force of nature. He tapped into the raw, ecstatic power of the Dionysian archetype, famously declaring God is dead and trying to birth a Bemenche, a new kind of human. He touched the fire of the gods, but the inflation was too much to bear. He spent his final decade in a state of catatonic insanity, a mind consumed by the very power it had unleashed. And this isn't just ancient history, we see it constantly in the modern world. The tech CEO who builds a billion-dollar empire and starts believing he's a prophet destined to save humanity. The spiritual guru who amasses thousands of followers and begins to see them as mere worshippers. The viral influencer who gets a sudden rush of fame and starts acting with untouchable arrogance. The pattern is always the same. A sudden surge of power, wealth, or fame, followed by a descent into megalomania. And then the spectacular fall, scandals, drug abuse, public meltdowns, or worse. The mana always collects its debt. So how can you spot this psychic inflation in others, or even in yourself? The symptoms are classic, grandiose fantasies about your special destiny, a growing contempt for ordinary people, for the rules and limitations that apply to mortals, an insatiable need for constant praise, adoration, and validation, a creeping paranoia. If you're a god, then anyone who disagrees with you must be an enemy, part of a conspiracy to bring you down. And finally, reckless, high-stakes risk-taking. Why not? You're convinced that gods, or the universe, or destiny itself, has your back. What's really happening here is an archetypal possession. The unconscious is a vast, powerful ocean. It's willing to lend you its tidal waves of energy, but it demands respect. It demands humility. When you forget that the power is borrowed, when you stop paying that debt of humility, an archetype seizes the steering wheel of your personality. If you're a rational, intellectual type, you might get possessed by Apollo, the god of cold logic, leading to an arrogant hubris that blinds you to your own flaws. If you're more of an artist or visionary, you might be seized by Dionysus, the god of ecstatic excess, leading to fragmentation and self-destruction. Or you could be taken by the terrible father archetype, becoming a tyrant who is inevitably overthrown. And then comes the madness phase. This is what happens when the borrowed mana is finally withdrawn. When the psychic credit card is maxed out, the universe cuts you off. What's left is a terrifying psychic vacuum. The high is gone, and the crash is devastating. This can manifest as profound depression, a sudden psychotic break, or even auditory hallucinations. The same inner voice that once whispered, "You are the chosen one," now screams, "You are worthless. You must be destroyed." Jung saw this again and again in his patients, individuals who had touched the profound power of the self too early. Without the proper grounding, and were shattered by the experience. Is there any way out? Is there an antidote to this fatal process? According to Jung, there is only one: voluntary deflation. The practice is simple, but it goes against every instinct of the ego. After every peak experience, after every major success, after every moment you feel on top of the world, you must deliberately, consciously, bring yourself back down to earth. Make a list of your flaws, your weaknesses, your mediocrity. Remind yourself of your own mortality, that you are just a fragile human being, and most importantly, perform humble acts. Do the dishes, clean the toilets, serve others, without any expectation of recognition. This kind of ritual humiliation is like a psychic grounding wire. It prevents the archetypal possession by constantly reminding you that you are the servant of the power, not its master. Here lies the cruel irony of it all. True greatness, the kind that changes the world, absolutely requires mana. You cannot achieve it without tapping into this immense archetypal power. But the more mana that flows through you, the greater the risk of inflation becomes. It's a razor's edge. Most who touch this real power end up in one of two categories. Either they practice voluntary deflation and become wise, grounded elders who use their power for good, or they stay inflated and become cautionary tragedies. Their names are warning to others. In our modern world, the traps are everywhere, and they are more seductive than ever. Social media likes are a constant, artificial mana drip, feeding the ego small hits of validation. Going viral is a recipe for instant inflation, a sudden surge of attention that can warp anyone's sense of self. Think of the overnight crypto millionaires, the unicorn startup founders, the spiritual teachers with massive online followings. They are all prime candidates for the fastest and hardest falls. They are playing with occult fire without any of the traditional safeguards. So remember the final occult price. Success without the sacrifice of ego is always borrowed power, and the bill will always come due. You have a choice. You can pay it humbly, with gratitude, humility, and service to something larger than yourself, or you can refuse, and the unconscious will come to repossess everything it lent you, usually with interest, paid in the currency of your insanity. You wanted power? You got it. Now you're discovering what it actually costs. Very few people survive that audit with their soul intact. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the psychology of our modern world. Stay grounded.